Sarcopenia, strategies to reverse bodies, aging faster than their years. Hello, dear listeners. The story I'm about to share with you today is about a thriller that's quietly unfolding within all of our bodies. You are the protagonist, and the villain is an invisible thief called Sarcopenia. Yesterday morning, did you find yourself out of breath while climbing stairs as usual? Have you ever wondered why objects you used to lift easily now feel so heavy? Have you ever muttered in front of the mirror, "I've lost weight, but why does my body feel weaker?" If you've experienced any of these, you may already be facing sarcopenia, the hidden enemy of modern people. Sarcopenia, medically known as sarcopenia, is not simply a natural change that occurs with aging. It's a serious condition that can threaten our independence, reduce our quality of life, and even endanger our lives. But there's no need to despair. Through today's session, we will accurately identify this invisible enemy and find ways to fight against it together. We will present practical solutions based on scientific evidence and show you that you can always regain a healthy and vibrant life. At the end of this journey, you will better understand your body and be equipped with specific strategies for healthy aging. Now, let's begin together. Chapter 1. The Identity of the Invisible Enemy. What is sarcopenia? Like Sun Tzu's famous saying, "If you know your enemy and know yourself, you can win 100 battles." To win the war against sarcopenia, we must first accurately identify this enemy. The term sarcopenia was first used by American gerontologist Erwin Rosenberg in 1988. In Greek, sarco means muscle, and penia means deficiency. In other words, it literally means muscle deficiency. However, sarcopenia doesn't simply mean muscle reduction. It's a complex syndrome where muscle mass reduction is accompanied by decreased muscle strength and deteriorated physical function. It's like the pillars of a house gradually rotting, making the entire building unstable. In the normal aging process, our muscle mass begins to decrease by about 0.8% annually, starting from age 30. However, with sarcopenia, this rate can accelerate to 3 to 8% annually. This is a shocking figure that means you could lose 30 to 80% of your muscle in just 10 years. Adding a somewhat cynical perspective here, our society pours astronomical amounts of money into appearance. We readily open our wallets for cosmetics, plastic surgery, and diet products, but we're relatively indifferent to the health of our muscles, the most important organ in our body. We're essentially decorating the exterior while allowing the interior to gradually crumble. Sarcopenia diagnosis is made based on 3 criteria. First is muscle mass measurement. Precise muscle mass is measured through DEXA scan, CT, or MRI, and when it's more than 2 standard deviations below the average for young adults, it's diagnosed as muscle mass reduction. Second is muscle strength measurement. Mainly grip strength is measured, and when it's below 27 kilograms for men and 16 kilograms for women, it's determined as muscle strength decline. Grip strength is used as an indicator, representing whole body strength because it's easy to measure while having a high correlation with overall strength. Third is physical function assessment. When walking speed is 0.8 meters per second or less, or when the chair stand test takes more than 12 seconds for 5 repetitions, it's considered functional decline. When 2 or more of these 3 criteria are met, sarcopenia is diagnosed. The causes of sarcopenia are complex. The primary cause is aging itself, but secondary causes are more important. Lack of physical activity, inadequate nutrition, chronic diseases, medication side effects, and hormonal changes all accelerate sarcopenia. Particularly, modern people's sedentary lifestyle is the main culprit of sarcopenia. As sitting time increases, muscle usage decreases dramatically, leading to muscle atrophy according to the basic principle of muscles: use it or lose it. Nutritionally, protein deficiency is the biggest problem. Many modern people consume enough carbohydrates and fats, but relatively insufficient protein, which is a component of muscles. This is like building a house with insufficient cement, but overflowing decorations. Chronic diseases also accelerate sarcopenia. Diabetes, cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney failure, and cancer are all related to muscle mass reduction. Increased inflammatory responses, protein metabolism abnormalities, and hormonal imbalances work together to destroy muscles. Hormonal changes are also important factors. Decreased testosterone in men, decreased estrogen in women, and decreased growth hormone all interfere with muscle synthesis and promote breakdown. Symptoms of sarcopenia are very subtle in the early stages: difficulty climbing stairs, trouble carrying heavy shopping bags, or needing arm assistance when standing up from a chair. These changes are so gradual that most people resign themselves thinking, "It's because I'm getting older." However, the consequences of neglecting sarcopenia are serious. Fall risk increases 2 to 3 times, fracture possibility increases, and infection risk due to decreased immunity also rises. Furthermore, the risk of developing cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and dementia also increases. The economic burden cannot be ignored either. In the United States, annual medical costs due to sarcopenia are estimated to reach $18.5 billion. In our country too, sarcopenia-related costs are rapidly increasing with rapid aging. But the hopeful news is that sarcopenia is a preventable and treatable condition. Many research results show that even people over 90 can increase muscle strength and mass through appropriate exercise and nutrition management. Muscle is one of the most adaptable tissues in our body. Regardless of age, it responds and grows when stimulated. This is the greatest hope given to us. Chapter 2: Lifestyle Habits Attacking Modern Bodies. Let's take a look at a typical day of a 21st century modern person. In the morning, they get up from bed, go to the bathroom, then sit at the dining table to eat breakfast. Next, they sit in a car or public transportation to go to work. When they arrive at the office, they sit in a chair all day working in front of a computer. They eat lunch sitting down and continue sitting and working in the afternoon. After work, they sit again to go home, then sit on the sofa watching TV or using their smartphone before lying down in bed to sleep. This is the typical day of a modern person. Walking time is at most a few dozen minutes. Standing time is only a few hours. The rest of the time is spent sitting or lying down. There has never been an era in human history where people lived without moving so much. Our ancestors had to constantly move for survival. Hunting, gathering, farming, building houses, making tools. All these processes used muscles throughout the body. The distance modern people walk per day averages 3,000 to 5,000 steps, but our ancestors are estimated to have walked 15,000 to 20,000 steps daily. Adding a somewhat cynical perspective here, we are making ourselves powerless in the name of convenience. Since there are elevators, there's no need to climb stairs. Since there are cars, there's no need to walk. Since there are delivery apps, there's no need to go out. We can even control everything with a remote control, so there's no need to get up. Is such progress really true progress? The impact of sedentary lifestyle on muscles is much more serious than we think. While sitting, our muscles, especially lower body muscles, hardly engage in any activity. According to the principle of use it or lose it, muscles quickly begin to atrophy. Research shows that even healthy young adults who rest in bed for just 5 days experience a 3 to 4% decrease in leg muscle mass. 2 weeks of bed rest can reduce muscle strength by 20 to 30%. This is a shocking fact showing how quickly our muscles change. Modern workplace culture is also problematic. In a culture where working hard is equated with sitting for long periods, exercise and physical activity are often considered time wasting. During lunch breaks, taking walks or stretching in the office is perceived as less diligent than processing more work. Changes in food culture are also accelerating sarcopenia. With increased consumption of convenience foods and processed foods, protein intake has relatively decreased while the proportion of sugar and refined carbohydrates has increased. Particularly, the spread of eating alone culture has exacerbated nutritional imbalance problems. The rapid expansion of food delivery has also removed even the minimal physical activity of going out to buy food. Now it's possible to solve everything without taking a single step outside the house. Changes in sleep patterns are also problematic. The 24-hour society, increased night work, and sleep cycle disruption due to smartphones and LED lighting interfere with growth hormone secretion. Growth hormone is essential for muscle growth and recovery, but poor sleep quality drastically reduces this hormone's secretion. Stress cannot be overlooked either. Chronic stress experienced by modern people causes continuous cortisol hormone secretion. Cortisol is a hormone that breaks down muscle protein to use as energy, and when maintained at high levels for long periods, it causes serious muscle loss. There are also problems with the education system. Due to excessive study loads and entrance exam competition, adolescents' physical activity time is drastically decreasing. Physical education classes are reduced in favor of major subjects, and after school, more time is spent sitting and studying at academies. Urban design itself is also problematic. Car-centered transportation systems, elevator dependence in high-rise buildings, and large mart-centered commercial structures all hinder daily physical activity. In the past, you had to walk to neighborhood stores, but now you drive to large marts. The spread of social media and digital devices also significantly reduces physical activity. In the past, to meet friends, you had to meet in person, and to enjoy entertainment, you had to go outside. But now everything is solved through a small screen in your hand. There's also a paradox in the healthcare industry. Health-related products and services have explosively increased. But the most basic and effective health management method, regular physical activity, is overshadowed by complex and commercial programs. However, despite all these environmental constraints, we still have choices. While we can't completely change the environment, we can find the best choices we can make within the given environment. We can start with small changes. Using stairs instead of elevators, walking short distances, getting off one stop early when using public transportation and walking, taking short walks during lunch breaks, getting up and moving for 5 minutes every hour. There are many methods that can be practiced in daily life. What's important is not waiting for perfect conditions, but finding and implementing the best we can do under current circumstances. Our bodies respond surprisingly well to even very small changes. Chapter 3. Building Materials for Muscles. The Science of Protein. If we compare muscle to a house, protein is equivalent to bricks and cement. No matter how excellent the blueprint is and how skilled the architect is, without quality building materials, you cannot build a sturdy house. Similarly, without sufficient protein supply, you cannot create or maintain healthy muscles. The word protein derives from the Greek proteos, meaning most important. A Dutch chemist first used this term in the 19th century, accurately grasping the importance of protein in living organisms. Our muscles are mainly composed of 2 proteins, actin and myosin. The interaction between these proteins causes muscle contraction and relaxation. But the more amazing fact is that our muscles are being newly created every day. In healthy adults, about 1 to 2% of muscle protein is broken down and resynthesized daily. This means that even when we're still, muscles are constantly being remodeled. It's like a process of partially demolishing and rebuilding old buildings happening in our bodies every day. The problem is that this balance breaks down as we age. While muscle protein breakdown rate remains the same or even increases, synthesis rate gradually decreases. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance, meaning that as we age, muscle synthesis response becomes duller, even with the same amount of protein intake. Adding a somewhat cynical perspective here, modern people are very sensitive about calories, but quite indifferent about protein. While meticulously calculating total calories on diet apps, they often don't properly track protein intake, which is essential for muscle health. This is like only caring about a car's fuel level while ignoring engine oil. So how much protein should we consume daily? The World Health Organization's recommendation is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. That is, an adult weighing 70 kilograms should consume 56 grams of protein daily. However, this is only the minimum amount to prevent disease and may be insufficient to optimize muscle health. According to recent research, to prevent sarcopenia and maintain muscle health, 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is recommended. If sarcopenia has already progressed, or if doing resistance training, increasing to 1.6 to 2.2 grams may be helpful. Not only the quantity, but also the quality of protein is important. Not all proteins are the same. Indicators for evaluating protein quality include amino acid score, biological value, and protein digestibility, corrected amino acid score. Generally, animal proteins have more complete amino acid composition than plant proteins. Particularly, the amino acid leucine plays a key role in triggering muscle protein synthesis and is more abundant in animal proteins. However, this doesn't mean plant proteins are useless. Beans, quinoa, chia seeds, and nuts are excellent plant protein sources. Also, combining different plant proteins can create a complete amino acid profile. Protein intake timing is also important. In the past, it was believed that consuming protein within 30 minutes after exercise was best. This was called the anabolic window, but recent research shows this time window is much longer than previously thought. Rather, what's more important is distributing protein intake evenly throughout the day. Rather than consuming large amounts at once, consistently consuming appropriate amounts at each meal is more effective for muscle protein synthesis. Ideally, consuming 20 to 40 grams of protein per meal is good. Protein intake at breakfast is particularly important. After overnight fasting, muscle protein breakdown progresses, but synthesis almost stops. Therefore, consuming sufficient protein in the morning to turn on the synthesis switch can determine the day's muscle health. As we age, more protein is needed. Young people can achieve maximum muscle synthesis response with 20 to 25 grams of protein, but elderly people may need 30 to 40 grams. This is due to anabolic resistance. There are also nutrients to consider along with protein. Vitamin D helps muscle protein synthesis and plays an important role in maintaining muscle strength. Omega-3 fatty acids help muscle recovery through anti-inflammatory action. Creatine helps energy supply during high-intensity exercise, contributing to strength improvement. The role of carbohydrates cannot be ignored either. Appropriate carbohydrate intake promotes insulin secretion, helping suppress muscle protein breakdown and promote synthesis. Excessively low carbohydrate diets can actually accelerate muscle loss. Water intake is also important. About 75% of muscle is composed of water, and dehydration can impair muscle function and interfere with protein synthesis. Consuming 30 to 35 milliliters of water per kilogram of body weight daily is recommended. Realistically, it's difficult for busy modern people to maintain a perfect diet. Protein supplements can be useful tools in such cases. Whey protein is quickly digested and absorbed with high leucine content, suitable for post-workout consumption, while casein protein digests slowly, helping with overnight protein supply. However, supplements are merely supplements and cannot replace natural foods. Natural foods contain not only protein, but also various nutrients like vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that can create synergy effects. Misconceptions about protein should also be corrected. Many people worry that eating too much protein puts strain on the kidneys, but for healthy people, appropriate protein intake doesn't cause kidney function problems. Rather, protein deficiency can be a bigger problem. Some avoid protein intake because digestion becomes difficult with age. In such cases, it's better to eat small amounts frequently rather than large amounts at once, or consume in easily digestible forms. Chapter 4. Philosophy of Movement. Exercise as the language of life. Movement is life. This is not just a simple maxim, but a biological truth. All life forms on Earth have survived through movement. Even plants turn their bodies toward the sun and extend their roots to find nutrients. Humans, who have evolved by constantly moving for survival over millions of years, are no exception. Our ancestors ran dozens of kilometers daily for hunting, wandered mountains and fields for gathering, and ran at full speed to escape danger. Moving heavy stones, cutting trees, building houses. In all these processes, the human body had to become strong. But in just the past 100 years, our lifestyle has fundamentally changed. Physical activity for survival is no longer necessary, and instead, we sit in chairs focusing on mental labor. Our bodies haven't yet adapted to such rapid changes. Adding a somewhat cynical perspective here, modern people tend to think of exercise as something special and complex. They believe you must go to a gym, receive guidance from professional trainers, and have expensive workout clothes and shoes. However, our ancestors maintained healthy muscles throughout their lives without any exercise equipment. The word exercise derives from Latin exercere, meaning to keep in motion. Interestingly, another word from the same root is exorcism, the ritual of driving out evil spirits. Perhaps exercise is a ritual to drive out the evil spirit of sedentary lifestyle that has entered modern people's bodies. The most effective exercise for preventing and treating sarcopenia is resistance exercise. Resistance exercise is where muscles contract against external resistance, with weight training being representative. However, heavy barbells or dumbbells are not necessarily required. The effects of resistance exercise on muscles appear through three main mechanisms. First is mechanical tension. The physical force generated when muscles contract activates signal pathways within muscle fibers, promoting protein synthesis. Second is metabolic stress. When metabolic products like lactic acid accumulate in muscles during exercise, hormones that promote muscle growth are secreted. The pumping feeling after exercise is the result of this metabolic stress. Third is muscle damage. Appropriate levels of microscopic muscle damage create stronger muscles during the recovery process. This follows the same principle as stronger tissue forming when wounds heal. The most basic yet effective resistance exercises can all be done with body weight. Squats are one of the best exercises that can simultaneously train almost all lower body muscles. They use quadriceps, hamstrings, glutes, and calf muscles, while also requiring core muscle stability. Push-ups strengthen multiple upper body muscle groups. Not only chest, shoulder, and arm muscles, but also core muscles are trained together. You can start with knee push-ups and gradually progress to standard push-ups. Planks are the best exercise for training core muscles. They activate not only abdominal muscles, but also deep muscles around the waist and pelvis. You can start with 10 seconds and gradually increase the time. Lower body exercises are particularly important for preventing sarcopenia. Leg muscles account for 60 to 70% of total muscle mass and are the most frequently used muscles in daily life. They're also the first muscles to weaken with age. The saying, "aging starts from the legs," didn't emerge without reason. Exercise intensity and frequency are also important. The American College of Sports Medicine recommends strength training 2 to 3 times per week, including major muscle groups at an intensity allowing 8 to 12 repetitions. However, this is just a general guideline and should be adjusted according to individual fitness level and goals. For exercise beginners, following the principle of progressive overload is important. Start with light intensity and gradually increase as the body adapts. This is like growing plants. Seeds will burn if suddenly exposed to strong sunlight, but they can grow healthily if gradually exposed to sunlight. Exercise effectiveness comes from consistency. Exercising for 20 minutes daily is much more effective than exercising for 2 hours once a week. Muscles adapt by responding to continuous stimulation. There are common mistakes people make when starting exercise. First is setting goals too high. They resolve to exercise for an hour every day, but give up within a few days. Rather, saying "I'll exercise for 5 minutes every day" is much more realistic and sustainable. Second is pursuing perfection. If they miss even one day of exercise, they think, "I've already failed," and give up entirely. However, exercise should be sustainable, not perfect. Third is focusing only on results. Short-term goals like "I'll build muscle within a month" only bring disappointment and frustration. Exercise effects begin to appear noticeably only after at least 8 to 12 weeks. Exercise is not just for increasing muscle mass. When exercising, happiness hormones like endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine are secreted. This reduces stress and alleviates depression. Exercise also boosts confidence and self-esteem. The feeling of being able to move and control your body, the sense of achievement of doing slightly more than yesterday, has positive effects in other areas as well. Philosophically, exercise is a way for us to build a healthy relationship with our own bodies. In modern society, we often view our bodies as mere tools or even obstacles. But through exercise, we realize that body and mind are one. Chapter 5. The Invisible Enemy, the War Between Stress and Muscles. If we were to express modern life in one word, what would it be? Probably stress would be most appropriate. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning until we fall asleep at night, we struggle with large and small stresses. Traffic jams on the way to work, endless work and meetings, complex human relationships, economic pressure, anxiety about the future. The sources of stress are countless. But did you know that such mental stress also directly affects our muscles? The term stress originally meant pressure or tension applied to matter in physics. The first person to apply this to biological phenomena was Hungarian endocrinologist Hans Selye. In 1936, he introduced the concept of biological stress, explaining the body's non-specific response to external stimuli. Selye explained stress response in 3 stages. The first is the alarm reaction stage, where the body shows a fight or flight response when first recognizing stress. The second is the resistance stage, where the body tries to adapt to continuous stress. The third is the exhaustion stage, where body functions rapidly deteriorate as it can no longer cope with stress. The problem is that most modern stress is chronic. The stress our ancestors experienced was mainly acute stress. Dangers like encountering lions or situations like famine were temporary, and stress disappeared once problems were resolved. But modern stress is endless. Adding a somewhat cynical perspective here, modern society has an ironic structure of creating stress while simultaneously selling stress relief products. It creates stress through competition and performance pressure, then sells all kinds of products and services to relieve that stress. It's like selling poison while simultaneously selling antidotes. The impact of chronic stress on muscles mainly appears through cortisol, a hormone. Cortisol is also called the stress hormone and is secreted by the adrenal glands during stressful situations. Appropriate levels of cortisol are necessary for our bodies. It plays important roles in regulating blood sugar, suppressing inflammation, and controlling immune responses. However, chronically high cortisol levels are fatal to muscles. Cortisol breaks down muscle protein, converting it to amino acids, and promotes the process of converting these to glucose in the liver. This is a survival mechanism to supply energy to the brain during stressful situations, but when sustained, it leads to muscle mass reduction. The impact of stress on muscles isn't explained by cortisol alone. Chronic stress increases inflammatory responses. Stress also ruins our lifestyle habits. When stressed, appetite changes, sleep patterns are disrupted, and motivation to exercise disappears. Many people seek sweet or fatty foods when stressed because they increase neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine in the brain, temporarily improving mood. However, these foods are mostly low in nutrients and high in calories, not helping muscle health. Sleep is also greatly affected by stress. When stressed, cortisol levels remain high even at night, interfering with deep sleep. Sleep deprivation again reduces growth hormone secretion and disrupts appetite-regulating hormones, creating a vicious cycle. So how should we manage stress? A life completely without stress is impossible, and actually, appropriate levels of stress help us. The problem is excessive and chronic stress. Therefore, rather than trying to eliminate stress, we should learn to manage it wisely. The first strategy is identifying stress sources and removing or reducing those that are possible. Internal factors like perfectionism, excessive responsibility, and comparing with others are parts we can control. Reducing unnecessary commitments, clarifying priorities, and sometimes having the courage to say no is important. The second is changing perception and response to stress. Even in the same situation, stress intensity varies depending on how we perceive it. Cognitive behavioral therapy techniques help, recognizing negative automatic thoughts and practicing changing them to more realistic and balanced perspectives. The third is practicing healthy methods for stress relief. Exercise is one of the most effective methods for stress relief. When exercising, endorphins are secreted, improving mood and reducing cortisol levels. Particularly, aerobic exercise has immediate effects on stress relief. Meditation and deep breathing are also effective. Mindfulness meditation helps escape from past regrets or future worries that cause stress by focusing on the present moment. Research shows that just 10 to 15 minutes of daily meditation can significantly reduce cortisol levels. Social support is also important. Healthy relationships with family, friends, and colleagues act as stress buffers. When facing difficulties, rather than suffering alone, simply talking with trustworthy people can provide considerable stress relief effects. Hobby activities also help stress management. Having time to immerse in activities unrelated to work is essential for finding peace of mind. Music appreciation, reading, gardening, cooking. Finding activities that match personal preferences and regularly making time for them is good. Stress management doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent practice and effort. But starting with small changes is sufficient. Small practices like 5 minutes of daily meditation, lunch break walks, regular meetings with friends can come together to create big changes. Chapter 6. The time when muscles grow, the secret of sleep. There's a saying, Sleep is the best medicine. This isn't just a simple proverb, but a scientific fact. While we sleep, our bodies perform important work of recovering from accumulated fatigue throughout the day, healing damaged tissues, and creating new cells. The role of sleep in muscle growth and recovery is absolutely crucial. Sleep is one of humanity's most basic physiological needs. You can survive weeks without food or water, but it's hard to endure even days without sleep. However, in modern society, sleep is often ignored or pushed to the back burner. Adding a somewhat cynical perspective here, modern society boasts of being a 24-hour city. It's a society where you can work anytime, consume anytime, and enjoy anytime. There are widespread misconceptions like cutting sleep because time is precious, or sleeping less means living diligently. But as the price for such convenience, we've lost our natural circadian rhythms. One of the most important phenomena during sleep is growth hormone secretion. Despite its name, growth hormone isn't only needed for children's growth. It plays essential roles in muscle synthesis, fat breakdown, and bone health maintenance for adults too. Growth hormone secretion is most active during sleep, especially during deep sleep stages. About 70 to 80% of total growth hormone is secreted during sleep. Therefore, insufficient or poor quality sleep reduces growth hormone secretion, hindering muscle recovery and growth. The impact of sleep deprivation on muscles has been proven through various studies. One study reported that when young men were made to sleep only 5 hours daily for a week, their testosterone levels decreased by 10 to 15%. Since testosterone is an important hormone for muscle synthesis, such reduction directly harms muscle health. What determines sleep quality isn't just the length of sleeping time. Sleep stages and cycles are also important. Sleep is broadly divided into REM sleep and non-REM sleep. Non-REM sleep is further divided into 3 stages, with stage 3 being the deepest sleep, slow wave sleep. During slow wave sleep, growth hormone secretion peaks, and muscle recovery and regeneration occur most actively. Also, during this time, protein synthesis increases, while inflammatory cytokine secretion decreases. Conversely, when sleep is insufficient or poor quality, these recovery processes don't occur properly. Sleep deprivation also affects appetite-regulating hormones. Leptin is a hormone that provides satiety, while ghrelin makes us feel hungry. When sleep is insufficient, leptin decreases and ghrelin increases, inducing overeating. Particularly, cravings for high-calorie foods increase, which can lead to weight gain and muscle mass reduction. Immune function is also closely related to sleep. During sleep, immune cells like T cells are activated to suppress inflammation and help tissue recovery. Chronic sleep deprivation causes immune system decline, making us vulnerable to infections or diseases, ultimately affecting muscle health negatively. So, how can we achieve quality sleep? First is maintaining a regular sleep schedule. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day is important. It's good to maintain similar times on weekends as on weekdays. Our biological clock prefers regularity. Second is optimizing the sleep environment. The bedroom should be dark, cool, and quiet. Block external light with curtains or blinds, and if there's noise, using earplugs or white noise machines helps. Third is creating a pre-sleep routine. Starting 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, it's good to avoid stimulating activities and engage in calming activities. Reading, meditation, light stretching, or warm baths help. Fourth is controlling smartphone and digital device usage. Blue light from screens suppresses melatonin secretion, making it difficult to fall asleep. It's best to avoid using smartphones, tablets, TVs, etc. at least 1 hour before bedtime. Caffeine intake timing is also important. Since caffeine's half-life is about 6 hours, it's good to avoid caffeine intake after 2 p.m. alcohol also negatively affects sleep. While alcohol initially induces drowsiness, it deteriorates sleep quality over time. Changes in sleep patterns with age are natural phenomena. Deep sleep decreases, frequent awakening occurs, and tendencies to sleep early and wake early appear. However, this doesn't mean sleep deprivation should be tolerated. Establishing age-appropriate sleep strategies is important. Chapter 7. The Magic of Time. Why it's never too late to start. There's a saying, when you think it's too late is the fastest time. This saying applies exactly to sarcopenia prevention and management. Many people don't even start with thoughts like, it's too late now, or I should have done this when I was young. But science tells us a different story. Muscles respond to stimulation regardless of age and can be improved anytime through appropriate intervention. Research results showing that even people over 90 can increase muscle strength and mass when starting resistance exercise support this. Human muscle development shows unique patterns according to life cycles. After birth, muscle mass continuously increases, reaching its peak in the late 20s to early 30s. From the mid-30s, it begins to gradually decrease, initially showing a gentle decline of about 0.5 to 1% annually. However, from age 50 onwards, the decline rate accelerates, decreasing by 1 to 2% annually. However, these figures are only averages, and individual differences are very large. Some people maintain muscle strength levels of those in their 30s to 40s, even in their 70s to 80s, while others experience rapid muscle strength decline from their 40s. What makes this difference is lifestyle and active management. Adding a somewhat cynical perspective here, modern society shows obsessive fixation on youth. The anti-aging industry has grown to hundreds of trillions of won, overflowing with all kinds of youthing products and procedures. However, there's relatively little interest in muscle health, which is the core of true youth. We're essentially decorating the exterior, while neglecting the gradually crumbling interior. Looking at age-specific sarcopenia response strategies. First, the 20s to 30s are the period of muscle saving. The goal during this period is to secure as much muscle mass as possible. Muscles built in youth act like a muscle bank account that offsets later losses due to aging. The 40s to 50s are the period of muscle maintenance. Since muscle mass reduction begins at this point, continuous management from a preventive perspective is necessary. Since this is a period with much work stress and family responsibilities, establishing efficient and sustainable exercise plans is important. After age 60 is the period of muscle restoration. There may already be considerable muscle loss, but it's too early to give up. However, safety should be the top priority, and intensity should be gradually increased. There are special factors to consider for each age group. At younger ages, recovery ability is excellent, so relatively high-intensity exercise is possible. However, as age increases, recovery time lengthens, so exercise frequency and intensity must be adjusted. Hormonal changes must also be considered. For men, testosterone levels decrease by 1 to 2% annually from their 30s. For women, rapid muscle loss can occur due to decreased estrogen after menopause. Nutritional requirements also vary with age. When young, muscle synthesis occurs well with relatively little protein, but as age increases, larger amounts of high-quality protein are needed. Common misconceptions about exercise starting time should be corrected. The thought it's too late is the biggest barrier. However, research shows that meaningful effects can be achieved even when starting exercise at 80 or 90 years old. I'm too weak physically is also a common excuse. However, exercise isn't something you do because you have physical strength. It's what you do to build physical strength. You can start with the most basic movements and gradually develop from there. What's important isn't a perfect plan, but starting itself. Muscle is one of the most adaptable tissues in our body, responding and growing when stimulated regardless of age. Conclusion: a message of hope for new beginnings. Until now, we've taken a long journey together to face sarcopenia, the hidden enemy of modern people. From the science of protein to the philosophy of exercise, and from stress management to the importance of sleep, we've explored muscle health from various perspectives. All this information and knowledge is meaningless if it remains only in our heads. What's important is practice. However, we all know well that practice isn't so simple. There's a deep and wide valley between knowing and doing. Nevertheless, we must not lose hope. What all the research and cases we've examined commonly tell us is possibility. The possibility that we can become healthier any time, regardless of age or current condition. Stories of 90-year-old grandmothers starting exercise and building muscle strength, of busy office workers in their 40s regaining health through consistent management despite busy daily lives, of people suffering from depression, recovering both body and mind through exercise. These are all real occurrences. Change doesn't happen overnight, but small daily choices come together to create big changes. Today's choice to use stairs, choice to eat protein-rich foods, choice to go to bed 30 minutes early, choice to spend time with loved ones. These choices will come together to change your life. Winning the war against sarcopenia isn't simply about increasing muscle mass. It's about regaining control over our own lives. The ability to take care of ourselves as we age, the freedom to do what we want to do, the time to be with those we love. Your muscles are waiting for you to care for them right now. Age is just a number. True youth comes from a moving body and a challenging mind. Start today. No, start right now. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do it every day. What's important is starting and not giving up. Please believe that small practices create big changes. Finally, I'd like to share the words from 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. The same applies when facing the challenge of sarcopenia. This challenge given to us is certainly something we can handle. And we already know the answer. Proper nutrition and regular exercise, sufficient rest and healthy relationships, and above all, a heart that doesn't give up. That's the answer. I sincerely support your healthy transformation. And please share the insights and experiences gained from this journey with others. What's difficult alone can become an enjoyable journey when done together. If you'd like to continuously access such beneficial health information, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll visit you with more content for your healthy life. Have a healthy and happy day today. Thank you.